This is Greg Penglis for Action Radio with Founding Moments, insights into our founding documents, sponsored by Santa Rosa Volunteers here in Santa Rosa County, Florida. Santa Rosa Volunteers is available at their website, SRV1776.com. That's SRV1776.com. The more I read of the prophecy apparent in the Anti-Federalist Papers, forecasting the end of liberty and the beginning of federal oppression should the Constitution be ratified, the more I'm convinced the Anti-Federalists were right, and that a modification of the Articles of Confederation would have been the far better course for this nation over ratifying the Constitution. We might have avoided our Civil War, and we might have even avoided the Marxist coup that stole our federal government with the willing cooperation of both major political parties. Anti-Federalist number 7 was written by Philanthropus, an anonymous citizen of Virginia, and published December 6, 1787. In his opening sentences, he talks about both his time in 1787 and our time in 2021. The time in which the Constitution or government of a nation undergoes any particular change is always interesting and critical. Enemies are vigilant, allies are in suspense, friends hesitating between hope and fear, and all men are in eager expectation to see what such a change may produce. But the state of our affairs at present is of such moment as even to arouse the dead. In his time, it was whether the Constitution would be ratified and what would happen to liberty. In our time, it's what has happened to overthrow constitutional government, and will it be restored? Once again, in prophecy, Philanthropus describes his time and ours. The new Constitution in its present form is calculated to produce despotism, thraldom, and confusion, and if the United States do swallow it, they will find it a bolus that will create convulsions to their utmost extremities. Were they mine enemies, the worst imprecation I could devise would be, may they adopt it. Forecasting some of our most grievous problems arising during the Constitution in force today, he said this: "The Congress is having power without control to borrow money on the credit of the United States. They're having power to appoint their own salaries, and they're being paid out of the Treasury of the United States, thereby, in some measure, rendering them independent of the individual states. They're being judges of the qualification and election of their own members, which by means they can get men to suit any purpose." Philanthropus then urges the continuation of the Articles of Confederation with these words: "Our present Constitution, with a few additional powers to Congress, seems better calculated to preserve the rights and defend the liberties of our citizens than the one proposed, without proper amendments. Let us therefore, for once, show our judgment and solidity by continuing it and prove the opinion to be erroneous, that levity and fickleness are not only the foibles of our tempers, but the reigning principles in these states." Regarding the men who would change to the new Constitution, he says, "There are men amongst us of such dissatisfied tempers that place them in heaven they would find something to blame, and so restless and self-sufficient that they must be eternally reforming the state. But the misfortune is, they always leave affairs worse than they find them. A change of government is at all times dangerous, but at present may be fatal, without the utmost caution, just after emerging out of a tedious and expensive war." In conclusion, Philanthropus gives us a plea for caution and a warning of what might happen with the ratification of the Constitution. He was more right than he ever could have imagined. He says, "In the most limited governments, what wranglings, animosities, factions, partiality, and all other evils that tend to embroil a nation and weaken a state are constantly practiced by legislators. What then may we expect if the new Constitution be adopted as it now stands? The great will struggle for power, honor, and wealth. The poor become a prey to avarice, insolence, and oppression. And while some are studying to supplant their neighbors and others striving to keep their stations, one villain will wink at the oppression of another. The people will be fleeced, and the public business neglected. From despotism and tyranny, good Lord, deliver us. Maybe it's time to review the Articles of Confederation as a potential return form of government, as a way to break the insane power and control currently exercised by a federal government supposedly limited to certain delegated powers. The source for the Federalist Papers is federalistpapers.org. The Anti-Federalist Papers are from selfeducatedamerican.com. The Articles of Confederation are from usconstitution.net. This is Greg Penglis for Action Radio with Founding Moments, sponsored by Santa Rosa Volunteers. Their website is SRV1776.com. That's SRV1776.com. Please share this report to anyone who needs it.